Solving multi-step equations. This is page 12 in our notes. So the first step is we're going to distribute if necessary. So if there's any parentheses where we can do the distributive property, we want to do that first. All right, so let's write the word distribute. Step 1. Step 2, we're going to combine like terms on the left side of the equation. Then step 3, we're going to combine like terms on the right side of the equation. So you don't combine terms across the equal sign. Keep everything on one side combined and then everything on the other side combined. Then we're going to move the variable to one side of the equation. It doesn't matter which side. Move the variable. So any of the terms with variables in them, you're going to take a term from one side and move it and combine it to the other side by doing the opposite like we were doing last week. It does not matter which side. Be sure to use inverse operations. So when we move anything to the other side of an equal sign, remember we're keeping things balanced, and so we're doing the opposite. We're getting rid of it by doing the opposite. Like if it's adding, we subtracting, we add it. And we do that to both sides to keep it equal on each side. And then step 5, we isolate the variable. At this point, you usually have a two-step equation. Which we did a whole other assignment on. So once you get to that point there, you should just be able to keep going like we did on the previous assignment like this, okay? Step 6, we find our solution. We're done. All right, we've got quite a few of these to practice because they can be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to go through a couple of them with you, and then you can either get the whiteboards or I can actually hand out the calculators and we can log in and answer them that way if you feel comfortable using the calculators or just ask them to write them down when we're done. Okay, so let's go through a couple of problems together following the steps. So step 1, distribute if necessary. You see any parentheses in here that we would want to distribute through? Yeah, right there at the beginning. We're going to go ahead and distribute that 2 through. So we have 2x, 2 times x plus 2 times 3. I'm not going to do anything else to the equation except for write it all down. So the only thing I did in step 1 was multiply through with the distributive property. Next, step 2, I'm going to combine like terms on the left side. So we have a 2x. We're going to totally ignore this side while we do this. So just completely ignore the 4x plus 3x minus 1. So we have a 2x, but we don't have any other x's on this side. So 2x is going to stay 2x. But we do have this 6 and 5 that are both constants. We don't have any variables at all. So those are like terms. We can just subtract them. So what's 6 minus 5? 1. Positive 1 or negative 1? Positive 1. So because it's a positive 1, we need to write a plus 1 in that next to our 2x. Okay, we combined everything on the left side. Now we're going to go combine everything on the we can. So on the right side, we have a 4x, we have a 3x, and we have a negative 1. So the 4x and the 3x, since they have the same variable, x, they are like terms. We can add them together. So 4x plus 3x, we add the 4 and the 3, so we get 7x. Combine those like terms together. Then we have a negative 1. It doesn't have anything else that it combines with, so I'm just going to write down negative 1. So I did step 2 and step 3. Now let's go to step 4. Move the variable to one side of the equation. It doesn't matter which side. So sometimes I move everything to the left because I like the variable to be on the left. Sometimes I'll move something to the right because then I have positive numbers instead of negative. So it just kind of depends on what you're most comfortable with and what the equation looks like. So for example, if we decide to move our variable to the left, we're going to subtract 7x from both sides. And subtracting 7x will give us a negative over here. If you're okay with that, then that's just fine. If you'd like to try and keep things positive, then you might want to subtract 2x from both sides instead. Then even though it's on the right side, it'll be a positive 5x. I'm going to go ahead and keep things on the left. So I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. So notice how I'm doing the inverse operation. The opposite of 7x is negative 7x, so I'm subtracting it. That's going to cause this to cancel out. And then we have 2x minus 7x. What is 2x minus 7x? Negative 5x, right? It's 2 is positive, but 7 we're subtracting it, so it takes it into those negative numbers. All right, we still have a plus 1. And on this side, even though we got rid of that 7x, we still have a negative 1. Now we want to isolate the variable. We now have a two-step equation. Probably written too big. I'm running out of space. It's all good. Okay. How do we get the variable by itself? What do we need to move out of the way? We need to move the positive 1 by minus 1, right? So we're going to go ahead and subtract 1 from each side. That will give us negative 5x equals, and what happens to our positive 1 and negative 1? They cancel out, right? So then on this side we have negative 1 plus negative 1. Is that going to cancel out? No. Is it going to be a negative times a negative with a positive? No. It's adding two negative numbers together. And so it's going to be combining the 1s to 2. They're both negative, so it's going to be a negative 2. All right, I've run out of room. So I'm just going to rewrite this up here exactly like it is, just so I have it here to look at. Okay, now I really need to get the x by itself. There's a number in front of the x that's keeping it from being by itself. We're isolating that variable. So what do we do to get rid of the negative 5? We're going to divide by negative 5, right? Don't add 5 because it's not subtracting, it's multiplying. It's a negative number multiplying. So we're going to take and divide both sides by negative 5. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 turns into 1. That's our goal, to turn that into 1. We don't usually write the 1. And then 2/5. 5 doesn't divide into 2 evenly. So we just have to leave it as a fraction. The only thing we can do at all is realize that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So instead of calling this negative 2 over negative 5, we can really just get rid of the negatives. And the answer is 2/5 because we can't divide that out evenly. So we just leave it as that reduced fraction.